I hate green bubbles, is what an iPhone user at the age of 12 and maybe about like half a brain would say. Jesus Christ, I'm sorry, that was really mean. But don't get me wrong, this looks so much better than this. Oh, why? Now allow me to explain. Back in the 1600s, I'm just kidding. When Apple launched iMessage, they made those bubbles blue so that you were aware you were texting someone with the same communication service. In this case, someone else with an iMessage. And to let users know that they were texting an Android, they made them green. Or in this case, texting someone using SMS. Funny enough though, before iMessages were a thing on the iPhone and everyone was just using SMS, they looked green. Everyone had green bubbles. And you know what? They did not look that bad. As you can see here, are you here yet? I'm looking for parking. Why am I reading it? As you can see here, the color does actually, it's pretty nice to look at. It's not like an annoying green, but now the green is just awful. It's just like terrible. But this green, I like it. This was the standard for a while too. It was just these green bubbles until they made them blue. Here in the US, iMessage has become the most popular way of communicating, and that's just because typically here in the United States, everyone always just uses their default messaging app, which in this case, if you buy an iPhone, that's iMessage. iMessage does have its perks. It's got read receipts, typing indicators, reactions, and then to top it all off, end-to-end encryption, which is the best thing you can ask for in a communication service. Now, for everyone who's into tech, everyone already knows what that means, but for those who don't know, let me explain. It basically means that only you and the other party can see the messages. I'm not saying like if your friend grabs your phone, they can't see it. No, it just means that that device and the other device are the only devices that can see those messages. That means nobody can try to sneak in and see those messages. Those dirty messages about the clothes that you haven't washed, right? That's what we were talking about, right? All in all, it's actually a pretty cool thing. It's the whole package, but there was a catch. The only way you can get all of these things was if you had an iPhone. So from one iPhone to the other iPhone, you get all of these things, all of this big, amazing package just straight into your phone. So if you tried messaging an Android, all of the things I just listed, gone. You don't get any of that. Not one. That's why when you send a picture to your friend with an Android, it looks like this.
Go crazy. Go stupid. Go crazy. Go stupid. Go crazy. Yeah.
Oh, by the way, when you send a picture to an Android, even today, I'm talking February 21st, 2024. If you send a picture to an Android, aside from it being pixelated, there is no end-to-end encryption. So that means if someone who knows how to like sneak in and look at those messages, they can look at those pictures, by the way, and I'm just letting you know. Someone correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure that's what end-to-end encryption, or that's what no end-to-end encryption means. Given that though, Google themselves, yes, Google, has made their own communication service just like the iPhone. This specific communication service is called RCS, which stands for Rich Communication Service. This specific communication service is a lot like iMessage. It grabs your phone number from the Android you're using, and then it gives you end-to-end encryption, reactions, typing indicators, read receipts, all of that, but only to another RCS user. In this case, it's just Androids. All Androids have RCS now by default, or at least the phones that come out do have RCS by default downloaded onto the phone, just like all iPhones have iMessage downloaded to the phone. So yes, if you have an Android and the other person has RCS, you can send those dirty pictures of your laundry. Now, if you're in the tech world or you live outside of the US, this is all dumb. There are other third-party apps that do all of these things. WhatsApp, Telegram, those have all of the things I just listed. They have typing indicators, read receipt. You're probably tired of me saying it, but most importantly, they have end-to-end encryption. Yeah, beautiful, right? You know what the best part is about those apps? Is they work on both iOS and Android. Crazy, right? The problem here in the US is that people are so stubborn and they would never, ever go out of their way to download a third-party app because the one on their phone, it works perfectly fine. Does that mean if they're going to text an Android, they're going to risk it all and have no end-to-end encryption? Yeah, they don't care because they prefer their blue bubbles with their iMessage friends over downloading encrypted messaging. But you know what? That's beyond the point. That's a whole video that I want to do some other time. For years, it was always either get an iPhone or go blue bubble, any one of those things. The problem was people just simply don't like iPhones And that's okay. And I'm just saying overall people don't like iPhones. I'm saying there's a group of people who don't want to buy an iPhone, but sometimes are forced to because they're left out of the group, or it's safer to communicate with their friends that way. It's just this whole mess that doesn't even need to exist, but it does. I mean, someone even asked Tim Cook, the guest asked Tim Cook, hey, like, what can we do so I can communicate better with my mom? And his response to fix all of this was,
buy your mom an iPhone.
Buy your mom an iPhone. man's crazy. Man is crazy. But you know what? Respect. That's a pretty cool answer. I don't know. However, as years went by, there were people who always try to find a way to kind of sneak around it. In this case, people found this way where you can have your Mac Mini be a server to your Android. So you can send messages kind of through a tunnel through your Mac Mini and then have it sent out to another iMessage person. And therefore you were able to like send iMessages through Android. Pretty cool, right? This only worked if you had a Mac Mini because those messages would be stored on that Mac Mini because it's yours. So in a weird way, people were able to send those sexy blue messages. In fact, a little company named Sunbird heard about this and thought this was the way. This was it. We've cracked the code. This is it. We did it. They were able to get a farm of Mac Minis and make these servers so that if you were to download their app, you can use those servers to send iMessages through your Android. It sounds like a great plan, right? There was also another company called Beeper who was doing a similar thing, but instead of just directly staying focused on iMessage, they were doing a group communication thing where instead of having this cluttered mess of having iMessage, WhatsApp, Instagram direct messages, all of these things, just have it grouped up into one app. So instead of jumping through all of these other apps to respond to other people, it's just all in one app, kind of to organize everything. But in a way, they also included iMessage in that organization app. There was Beeper, there was Sunbird. All of this sounds pretty cool, right? Now, after a little time, there was a company called Nothing. And this is the second video in a row I'm bringing them up. Nothing saw the same issue that I saw, that I was talking about earlier, about being left out of the group, being that standout from the blue bubble and the green bubble and all that stuff. How most people are scared to switch to Android because of the bullying that comes with not having those blue bubbles. So they saw this issue and were like, what if I do something about it? What if I fix the issue? Me. So they were very excited. They were very thrilled. They were so excited that they dropped this video. Before you judge, yes, these are the Razer cat ears. My sister got them for me for Christmas, so I will be wearing it.
We've developed an app that allows you to iMessage from Android. You've likely heard of the blue bubble, green bubble debate, where Apple's lack of RCS support limits features between Android and iOS. That risks user privacy, causes discrimination, affects dating. I mean, it's even in a Drake song.
I just don't have time for this.
We found James, a journalist at Inverse, who said he'd be open to trying on Android if it didn't mean losing iMessage.
Yeah, the Pixel 8 Pro is a great phone, honestly. I was surprised at how much I do actually like it and how much I could see myself using it. Like if I asked my friends, like, hey, message me on WhatsApp, they'd be like, what's wrong with you?
This is exactly what I said earlier.
How do you message your friends who are on Android?
I text them. I think I'm probably more likely to like message them on Instagram.
Do you think there's anything else that's stopping you from moving to Android?
Yeah, there's the familiarity. I've been using iPhones for a long time and I'm familiar with iOS. There's a lot of...
So that's another thing too that I wanted to talk about. Some people who are mature and are grown up and don't care about the colors of their bubbles, sometimes they just don't want to switch to Android because they're used to iOS, and that's fine. For me, that's a valid reason. For me, that's a more valid reason to not want to switch than because of the color of your bubble. If you tell me, oh, it's because of the ecosystem, I'm already locked in, I use a Mac, which kind of is easier to switch into my iPhone, and I have a watch and my AirPods connect to all that, I can understand. That I'm like, okay, that's fair. That's a good reason. But if it's just because of my color, the bubble gonna be great, I don't care. It's just such a dumb reason.
Was that just picking up an Android device and using it is pretty intuitive. I think that there's just a lot of crossover now between operating systems.
It's pretty
and
easy.
We have this like common language that's applied across both Android and iOS.
The first product that we're building is called Nothing Chats.
That's pretty exciting. So you're blue bubbling the green bubble.
Yeah, with the Nothing Phone 2, you can blue bubble and camouflage yourself. A lot of our Nothing Ear users were actually iPhone users. So the majority of them are actually on iPhone and our phones because maybe there's something else there. Maybe we started looking at the different teams working on this problem and we got in touch with the Sunbird team. We quickly kind of grouped together and came up with this.
Sunbird? Yeah, I mean, then they kind of briefly talk about the things that are going to come out, which is single messaging, group chats, typing indicators, high resolution image sharing, all that good stuff. So it's obvious that the hype for iMessage on Android had officially begun. I mean, the whole sentence, iMessage on Android, it's not even like a hypothetical thing. It was a real thing that just happened. And I remember that morning too. I woke up and I saw that Nothing dropped this video, and I remember going, holy shit, this is real. This is fucking real. Now that was November 14th, 2023. And then that hype lasted a total of 5 minutes. Now maybe I'm like over exaggerating, but it did not last long, because soon after, people started doing their research and noticed that there were privacy issues with the app. Now the problem wasn't with Nothing directly, but Nothing contributed to it. But in a sense, people started digging and found out that Sunbird was using this Mac Mini farm to filter all those messages to go through the Mac Mini and send them out, which is the original way I had brought up. While technically they were end-to-end encrypted, you were still sending them to a Mac Mini that was not yours, who Sunbird had access to. Now they can easily say, we're not going to look at them. We don't touch these Macs. They're just sitting there. But there's nothing stopping them from seeing that. I mean, everyone was rightfully skeptical and upset. Nothing had launched an app without doing any proper research, which cost Nothing a lot of mistrust in the company now. Now, keep in mind, Nothing is still fairly new. They started like 2-3 years ago. But when you do something like this, people start having their doubts and having their reasons to feel upset about the whole situation. And well, after that was that. But then the plot thickens. One faithful morning, one beautiful morning. It was like those kind of mornings where you go to the restroom and everything just comes out. I was so disgusted. Why did I say that? One faithful morning, Apple announces RCS is coming to iPhone. Whoa. Now wait, hold up. Didn't I say the title of this video is the day Apple killed iMessage on Android? Yes, but hold up. While everyone was celebrating this unbelievable thing that RCS was coming to iPhone, things were happening in the background, but not at Apple. No. Do you remember the app I mentioned earlier? Beeper? Beeper, during this time, started to collaborate with a teenager who found a way to trick Apple's like service into thinking that your phone number is an iPhone phone number and it's associated to iMessage, which then sent you a token through their app, which is, it's just, I'm probably like the worst person to explain this, but I'm going to do my best. That basically tricked the app and your phone number into thinking it was an iMessage or an iMessage phone number. And you were able to communicate with people with iOS and they would think you had a blue bubble. Now, this was all happening locally on your device. So instead of Sunbird's way of setting it to a Mac Mini farm and they're doing their thing and you can see the message, all that, none of that. This is directly through your phone to someone else's phone. That's it. It was perfect. That is what iMessage on Android is. Finally, there was peace between Apple and Android. The messages were end-to-end encrypted. There was high resolution image sharing, and it was beautiful. Finally, we rest on a grateful universe. This all happened on a Friday, and it was over by like Sunday night, Monday morning. Why? Because Apple had to defend their ground, and you can't blame them for this because this is Apple service, right? At the end of the day, Apple made iMessage. This is their product. If they want to come in and shut it down, they can come in and shut it down. And it wasn't like they sent a cease and desist, at least not that I know of. It wasn't like they did that. It was more like they found the crack that the teenager had found and were able to patch it up. And then Beeper did try to fix this by releasing other attempts, and those attempts would work, but then it would just get shut down by Apple again. And again, there were Android users who were upset that Apple kept shutting it down, which I get why. I mean, finally we have end-to-end encryption between both devices, but at the same time, it is Apple's service, right? At the end of the day, you can't be upset that Apple's taking something that they made, but I also understand the other side as to like, well, they're the reason we can't send messages, encrypted, high resolution videos and images. So there was a little bit of a fuss, but I kind of understood why. And so ultimately, that was the day that Apple shut down iMessage on Android. And then that was it. For a brief moment, Android and iPhone users were just okay. Because what I learned from this was that it doesn't matter. They're just bubbles. Jesus Christ. Can I just enjoy whatever phone I have? Oh my God.